Yesterday, we set the scene with a chat with NPR's Ken Rudin about the Obama inauguration, which is taking place in Washington, D.C. right now. The parades, the parties, the balls, and inevitably, as you heard already on the radio this morning, the speeches. But it's a very special opportunity for young Melbourne University student Chris Weinberg, who, in his role as an intern with the Grattan Institute, has not only found himself in Washington, D.C., not only found himself part of the inauguration hoopla, but has found himself making a speech, not just listening to them. Chris, good morning to you. What's happened? How did this come about?
Well, firstly, John, it's a pleasure to be with you. So I'm in Washington at the moment as part of the Collegiate Presidential Inaugural Conference, a conference of about 900 students from around the United States and around the world, including a strong contingent from Australia. And in part of the conference, aside from the inauguration celebration, tomorrow I'll be giving the thank you speech to Reverend Jesse Jackson's keynote speech to the conference attendees.
How did you land this gig?
Well, I was fortunate enough to attend a similar conference related to the inauguration in 2009, and I was fortunate enough to be invited back, and I couldn't say no to another invitation to attend history.
You're a recidivist, Chris.
Thank you, John.
Well, that's an enormous honour. How did you get selected out of all the possible candidates to give the thank you to the Reverend Jesse Jackson's speech?
So the conference set up a small competition where you could submit a video answering one of 5 questions that they proposed. And the question that I sought to answer was about what kind of challenges our generation are facing as we take up positions of leadership.
And what are those challenges? What are you going to say?
Well, in the video that I put together, I discussed how a lot of the challenges relate to problems that cross borders, particularly related to the environment and the movement of people. But I said that the biggest challenge was trying to combat this sort of pervading political apathy that we've seen far too often in Australia and overcome some of the divisions that we've seen demonstrated here in Washington especially.
Australian politics last year was extraordinarily divisive, but by golly, if you want to see divisive politics, have a close look at what's been going on in the USA. There are very strong parallels. Have you noticed those?
Absolutely. It's actually been fascinating to be discussing the similarities and the difference between the experiences in the United States and Australia, between college students from each country. And we've both learned a lot about each other's systems, and it's actually been fascinating, particularly at this period where there's a lot of discussion in the United States about changes to laws relating to guns, about Australia's experience, and I think it's reflective of how Australia can have a positive contribution to some of the political discourses that take place in the US.
Oh, they're fascinated with our experiments on gun control, compulsory superannuation, health insurance. When you describe Australia's healthcare system and health insurance to Americans, they're absolutely fascinated because that seems to be just too hard for them to organise. The other thing, this also intrigued me, Chris, but in America they're so proud of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and quite rightly so on each front. But they don't understand how Australia can be a functioning democracy when we don't have our own constitution, we don't have a Declaration of Independence from Britain, and we don't have a Bill of Rights.
Yeah, well, I think it goes to the whole idea that Americans love that idea that they were created as a country out of such tension and battle between the British, and I don't think they fully grasp the idea that you didn't need to have such a tension-filled and acrimonious separation with the British to become a nation. And I think through the struggle that they experienced during the late 1700s, that they've sort of held on to that as sort of a rallying cry to give their nation meaning. And you see that. You saw that in the President's speech today with his continued mention of the Declaration and the Constitution in particular.
Well, thank goodness it didn't snow, and enjoy every moment of it. Soak it up, Chris, and good luck. Thank you for taking our call today.
Thank you very much, John. I appreciate it.
Chris Weinberg, a young Melbourne University student who is delivering the thank you address in response to the Reverend Jesse Jackson's speech. And he's over there as part of a program, an astonishing program called the Collegiate Inaugural Scholars, which takes him to Washington, D.C. Yesterday,